welcome back for another ASMR video. And today we're going to be looking at something a little different today. The Assassin's Creed Discovery Mode, which is basically the game, but they removed all the gaming elements and created a historical recreation of Greece, and it's very beautiful. And actually today I think it's worth exploring and seeing if we can learn a little bit more. So Athens is one of the oldest cities in the world. 5,000 years of activity there in history. So let's go ahead and load up the game and let's explore and see more about this world, okay? So as you can see, this is pretty much the world right here. It's extremely beautiful and vivid as well. So we're gonna take a tour of the Parthenon and the Acropolis and explore. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove myself from this so we can really focus on the beauty of Athens. As you can see, Athens is a very beautiful city. And we're gonna zoom out with our falcon and take a look a little bit closer, investigation of the city. So as you can see, this world is very vast and it is very detailed. So where we're gonna visit today is a big rocky outcrop known as the Acropolis. And that really just means big rocky outpost. We're gonna fly around it really quick for you here. And although for us it might seem as though it was a religious symbol, it functioned as a treasury as well. And there was a religious aspect as well. So as you can see in the rest of the city, it's literally means a big crop outpost, a rocky outpost. And many other Greek, in fact almost all of the other Greek city-states had their own similar. And then we can see it there. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in for a closer look. So we're going to dismount here. And we're going to go ahead and take a look here where we are. We're at the beginning of the hill. And this being one of the oldest cities, the first thing you notice is everything is in color, and the past was in color. And as you can see, many of the statues here have colors. And I believe it was a Harvard study that showed that the Greek statues actually had colors. And the Greek dynasty had been around for so long that, in fact, when later generations would recreate this classical look, they made them in white because the paint had faded even for them. And so studies do show that many of these statues have paint on them. But we can see people are making essentially a pilgrimage here. But also, nearby is one of the commercial centers for Athens. And you can see here many of these are gods, ancient gods. And also we have shops and other things like that here as well. So this ancient citadel is mainly famous, well, the most famous building, is the Parthenon. And that was actually, among other things, considered to be a treasury for the Delian League, which was a group of city-states, Greek city-states, to fight the Persians. Now, at that time, Greece was broken up into several city-states, ruled by their own governments. Athens, Sparta, for example, Corinth. And Athens was the leading city-state for periods of time, although in my opinion it seems perhaps longer than the others, although Sparta had a moment as well. But this was sort of a important site for all Greeks, and Athens, of course, was the main power at the time in this region. So Athens had about 400,000 people. Well, we'll explore those mountains and some other areas here. This is a very expansive world. And it was really in ancient times known as the Cecropia, which is named after a legendary serpent man Cecrops, who was supposedly the first Athenian king. However, in about 495 to 429, to the 5th century BC, it was Pericles who rebuilt this monument to Greek greatness. And so you can see there are people praying, and they're dressed well. These people wore nice colors. They had jewelry. Now, when we come up here, we will see the Propylae, which is the grand entrance to the Acropolis. Alright, now we're on the path upwards towards there. Oh, I'm sorry, lady. You can see here on the ground the flowers here, which is a celebration of the Panathenaic Games. These games were held every 4 years in ancient Greece, from 566 to the 3rd century AD. So we're going to go ahead and slowly walk up here. It's a nice stroll on a beautiful sunny day in the Greek Acropolis. You can see these flowers here. These games were celebrating athletic events for the most part, although there was a musical element as well. And this is the Propylae here. Let's just step back and try to take a look and see, what this, it's supposed, really strikes a sense of awe into the listener or the viewer. If you were to come here from out in the fields in Greece, you would be blown away in awe just of the gateway to this beautiful place. So, let's go ahead and walk through here. We're going to be entering this Parthenon, or the Propylae, through the gates here. And as you can see, there are beggars, people who are suffering. There are places here for shops and things of that nature selling their wares. And business meetings are taking place, shops and things of that nature. So, as you can see, there's this huge statue of Athena. And really, the size is just absolutely amazing. And you can see people at the bottom there praying and giving alms. Now, Athena was the goddess of Athens. That's the name. And each Greek city-state had its own patron god. So Athens was Athena, and of course the other ones had their own respective gods as well. And they would make they would make the prayers to get these gods' favors. And the story goes that Poseidon and Athena both fought to gain the patronage of Athens. Athena's animal being the owl and wisdom in warfare. And as you can see, there are many owls on the banners around here. So the owl was very important at that time for Athens. However, Athena and Poseidon competed with one another for the honor, offering the city one gift each. Poseidon produced a spring by striking the ground with his trident, symbolizing naval power. Ancient Greece was a small place compared to what it is today. It was about an area of 2 kilometers from east to west. And you can see here the Parthenon in the distance. Also on this site was the statue of Athena and the place where Poseidon struck with his trident. The temple of Hephaestus and the temple of Olympian Zeus also are in mainland Greece here as well. But within the city walls. But now in ruins, unfortunately. So, let's continue here. Now this took a long time to build. Parthenon that you can see in the right took about 8 years to build. This took about half of Athens' GDP to build this structure. Nighttime has fallen on the Acropolis. And as you can see here, there are big pillars. And these pillars come from different periods in Greek history. One of them is Ionic, another is Doric, and the other are Corinthian. Now the pillars on the Parthenon are Doric and more simple. And the way that you know that is by the base and the top of the pillars, whether they're detailed or not. So you can see at the bottom, the pillars go straight into the ground. So you can see there's pottery and other objects. And their pottery was very, very beautiful, as you can see here, with various scenes of life in Greece. So looking out to the ocean, the Aegean Sea, you can only imagine what it would look like. And so Athens accepted that an olive tree from Athena, and Athena won over the patrons of Athens because it symbolized peace and prosperity. And that is where Athens got its name. The tree, which was given, according to Herodotus, the great historian, had been burned down in the Persian Wars, but a shoot sprung from the stump. And as you can see, there is an olive tree. And we're going to talk about this building here as well, because it's quite interesting. And this olive tree is from the birth of the city. So about a tenth of the population were adult male citizens who could vote in the assembly and be elected to office. The population changed after Alexander the Great, and the Greeks migrated to Hellenistic empires in the east. So the name of the market that surrounds this area, which was about 400 meters north of the Acropolis, is the commercial and social center of the city. This statue of Athena took 9 years to build, and it stood for about 1,000 years until it was moved to Constantinople in the 400s AD. And unfortunately, it was destroyed in a riot. So, very sad ending for such a beautiful piece. As you can see, there are altars and offerings. Many of the animals, you can see them in the distance, there's a bull statue there. And people would make offerings to these animals, make offerings of the animals to the gods of their choosing. Well, they're looking out at quite a beautiful scene, although they look pretty upset. So you can see here these pillars here. And this is another So you can see the pillars here, and they're different. They have more decorations on the top going into the bottom. And I believe these are ionic, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to come around here and take a closer look. Now, these are actually very interesting. These are the Caryatids. The Caryatids give a sense of movement but stability. And this building had limited space between the cliff and Parthenon. There's limited real estate here. And this is an Ionic building, the Erechtheion. As you can see, the pillars in the Pantheon, which we'll come back to later, are Doric. And this was near the old temple that was destroyed by the Persians. Essentially, the creator of this building swung back the colonnade to the north, where these 6 women are at the north porch. And they are based on the Caryatids near Sparta, the women from that town. Let's see if we can go inside and see. Somewhere here is the spot that Poseidon shot down his trident to the ground. This could be that representation here. It does look like this is... Now in the real Erechtheion, I'm gonna just double check, but there is an actual tile missing from the floor to show Poseidon and his gift. This is the olive tree, of course. Let's see if we can... I think that was the only entrance there, for the most part. Let's see over here, maybe there's a spot. And so this is, this is for Athena, but you can see the walls are richly decorated, beautiful as well. So that's unfortunate, however, you can only do so much detail. So now we're gonna go over here to the Doric Parthenon and really explore that as well here. You can see these owl banners here, and you can see here the Metopes, which are if you see those square pieces at the top of the building, and they're carved with scenes of the Greeks' battles with various enemies, the Amazons and the Trojans. You can also see the ascendancy of Greece, which was shown in these decorations. What's interesting about the Parthenon is, although it's not easy to see in this recreation, but the pillars actually are an illusion, or the whole building using mathematics. In fact, it looks equidistant and perfectly shaped. However, the pillars are shaped, different thickness at the ends in the middle, and the distances between these pillars are also different. Each stone was cut to fit precisely, but used something called enthesis, which is small micro changes that aren't exactly straight but bulge towards the center. But you can't exactly see it because the eye doesn't perceive it exactly. So it looks like a straight line. And the Greeks wanted organic look to these pillars. But the bulge provided that sort of nuance. So to build these pillars, they would start from the top and base and then carve the middle to fit their needs. Now let's go towards the entrance. Go around here. I guess it won't let us go in. Now the Parthenon is not an altar the way we might think of the Vatican or something like that in our church. It's, interestingly, it was you can see a lot of gold and incense being burned here. And one thing that's very interesting is that this was a place for the tribute for the Delian League. And that Delos, sorry, I call it the Delian League because it's from Delos. It was basically a tax that the Greek city-states paid to Athens to protect from Persia. Now, the Athenian leaders, of course, used this for other purposes, to say the least. And that you can see here with all the gold and things of that nature. So one thing that's interesting is some of the actual lists of items that they found inside of the Parthenon. So they made inventories of their wares. And here's an example. 113 silver bowls, 4 gold bowls, 3 silver drinking horns, 3 silver cups, 1 silver lamp, 1 gold statue, 6 Persian daggers, 1 silver gilt mask, 1 ivory inlaid table, 1 gilt lyre. And we're going to go to the other side because there's something in here as well on the other side of this building. In the middle of this building is a statue of Athena as well that we're going to check out. So another interesting factoid is the steps and you can see a little bit, it's slightly represented. They're a little off. And then what they would do is they would raise the stones so the rainwater would fall naturally as drainage, like these irregularities in the floor. So that's very interesting as well. Now we're going to go into the main entrance here. So, as you can see here, we have a statue of Athena. Now, this is a 40-foot statue. And it costs a lot. It's made of gold and ivory, as you can see. And this has a pool of water to show reflect the gold color and really show the glory of this building. And you can see in her hand the victory Nike, which is to her handing the victory to the Athenian people. Also, you notice the snake in the sort of the right side there, which is also an animal very frequently associated with Athena. So, gonna go ahead into first person and we're gonna check out a little bit more. Okay, so we're gonna go back outside now. So when we come back outside, we can see here the Triglyphs, which are the stone 3 divots at the top of the roof there. You can see that it's adds support to the structure. Unfortunately, the Parthenon and the other buildings were damaged seriously in 1687. The Ottomans and the Venetians were at war, and the Ottomans were using the Parthenon as a munitions center, and a explosion ripped out all of the remaining innards and things like that. The sculptures that fell off were then unfortunately taken by an English gentleman and brought to London. Just to add to this, Athens was devastated as well in 85 into 88 BC, where most Athenian houses and fortifications were leveled by the Roman general Sulla, and many of the civic buildings and monuments were left intact. So we're going to come back into the center square here, and it's probably important to add the Roman Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century had added a library, a gymnasium, an aqueduct, and some temples and sanctuaries. And also a bridge, which was financed the completion of the Temple of Olympian Zeus. So, in 267, the city was sacked by Heruli, and they burned all those buildings down, plundering the lower city and damaging the Agora, which is the commercial center, as I mentioned. And as well, the Acropolis. So, after this, the city to the north of the Acropolis was heavily refortified on a smaller scale, with the Agora outside the walls. And during Roman rule, it remained as foundation for philosophy. For about 500 years, patroned by emperors such as Nero and Hadrian. However, the sack in 267 by the Heruls and the Alaric in 396 dealt a blow to the city's fortunes. And from there on, Athens remained to a small fortified area that embraced a fraction of the ancient city. The Emperor Justinian I closed down the city's philosophical schools in 529. And although that impact is debated, they say it to be the end of ancient history in Athens. So, as you can see, it was once a beautiful, thriving place, and a reminder about the flows of history. And always remember that the past is colorful, just like we are today, and has the same excitement, and for these people, this was the center of their universe. So I hope you enjoyed this tour, and I hope we can explore